So we are doing separable phrasal verbs. So separable phrasal verbs. Do you know what a phrasal verb is? No? Phrasal verbs are two-word verbs. They have a main verb and a particle. So these verbs have two words. Particles and prepositions look the same, but they act differently. So do you remember what prepositions are? What are prepositions?
Simple.
Like to, on, in, above, right? Those are prepositions, okay? Yeah, so particles look like prepositions, the same words, but the meaning is different. Right? We use them with verbs also. So we do have three-worded phrasal verbs, but separable, two words. Okay, so the verb and particle are usually common words, but their separate meanings are often very different from the meaning of the phrasal verb. So here's a list of some phrasal verbs. This is what they look like. We have come back. Come back means return. So you all know the verb come, but when you see come back, it actually means return. Figure out. Have you heard that phrasal verb before?
Yeah.
Yeah, figure out, that means
So,
solve a problem, find a solution. Look over. Look over means examine. Yeah, examine. Pick up. Lift, sorry, like pick up the baby. Put up. Build, right? So these are all examples of common phrasal verbs. Many phrasal verbs are transitive. They take objects. So what this all means, you know verbs, right? Verbs. They're actions. Phrasal verbs, they're verbs, but they have two words with them, okay? So many phrasal verbs are transitive. This means they must have an object with them. So our first example, call off. This is a phrasal verb. Call off means cancel. Cancel, okay? Now, since call off is a transitive phrasal verb, that means you must use an object with it. So example, let's call off the meeting. Let's cancel the meeting. Okay? Pick out. Pick out means choose, right? Pick out again is a transitive phrasal verb. That means you must have an object. Pick out the chair you like best. Choose the chair you like best. Right? So a phrasal verb is just a different way to use a verb, right? It's just, English, we like to make it confusing, right? So we like to use phrasal verbs, and phrasal verbs are really important to understand and to learn because in conversation, Americans like to use phrasal verbs. They're extremely common, so if you don't learn phrasal verbs, you won't be fluent. You must learn phrasal verbs. So important.
And we can use all the verbs to make a phrasal verb.
What do you mean you can use?
We can all the verbs we know. We can use it for make a
Phrasal verb? Yes, but you have to know which particles to use. So for example, pick out means choose, but then we have pick on, pick over. So if you use a different particle, the meaning is different. So that's the difficult part, remembering the definitions of all the phrasal verbs. Because when you change the particle, the meaning is different. So that's why it's confusing. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a big list of phrasal verbs. Not tonight, probably tomorrow. Huge list of phrasal verbs. Yes. Okay, so here's the confusing part. So most transitive phrasal verbs are separable. This means that noun objects can go after the particle or between the verb and the particle. So there are 3 ways we can write and say these phrasal verbs. So for example, he filled out the form. Do you know the phrasal verb fill out? What does that mean, fill out?
Right.
Yeah, it means write information in a form, right?
Like
fill,
an application?
yeah, like write in the blank spaces. Right. So he filled out the form. You can put the object after the phrasal verb. But since it's separable, that means you can separate the phrasal verb. And you can say, he filled the form out. Or you can use an object pronoun. He filled it out. So there are 3 ways, when you use a separable phrasal verb, there are 3 ways to write and say these phrasal verbs.
But it's the same meaning.
It?
It.
Well, yeah, it takes the place of the form.
Okay. No, but
Yes? No?
no.
Right, the form is an it. It.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the 3 sentences is the same meaning.
Yes, exactly the same.
Okay.
The 3 sentences have the exact same meaning. There are just 3 ways to write and say these phrasal verbs, separable phrasal verbs. He filled out the form, he filled the form out, he filled it out. Because it's separable. I think I accidentally deleted a slide. But anyway, I can just write it on the board. So the important thing to remember about separable phrasal verbs. So when you decide to use the object pronoun, do you remember your object pronouns? Object pronouns? Do you remember what they are? Do you know your subject pronouns?
Yeah,
What are your subject pronouns?
I,
So we have subject pronouns. You all know these. Maybe you just forgot the name. I, you, he, she, it, we,
they,
and they, right? So these are our subject pronouns. But then we have object pronouns, which we use with phrasal verbs. Yeah, object pronouns. So I becomes me. You is the same, you.
him,
He is him. Her, or she is her. It,
it,
the same. We,
us,
us, and they,
them.
them. So with phrasal verbs, we use object pronouns. So this means, for example, if I have the sentence, I picked up the baby. Right? I picked up the baby. What's the object?
Baby.
Baby, right? This is my object. So pick up, separable phrasal verb, right? So I can also say, what else can I say? I picked the baby up. I can put the object. I can put the object in the middle. Now, if I want to change the baby to an object pronoun, we'll say the baby is a boy, right? So I
Him up.
picked him up. So when you use the object pronoun always goes in the middle. When it's a separable phrasal verb. Inseparable, different story. when the phrasal verb is separable, which means you can divide, you can separate the verb, the object pronoun, so all of these words right here must go in the middle. Never after, because it's separable. Now, inseparable, which we will talk about on a different day, different story. Separable phrasal verbs in the middle, okay? So let's look at some more separable phrasal verbs. So the first one, drop off. So these phrasal verbs I'm going to show you from now on, you must know for this class. You must have these phrasal verbs memorized. The first one is drop off. It means deliver. Did you drop off the rent to the landlord? I dropped off my prescription at the pharmacy. Okay, means deliver. So in the first one, the question, did you drop off the rent to the landlord? What is the object?
The rent.
The rent.
The rent, right? So the rent. The rent is the object. Drop off is separable. So I can say, did you drop the rent off to the landlord? Right? It can go in the middle. And if I want to use an object pronoun, did you drop it off to the landlord? Second one, I dropped off my prescription at the pharmacy. What is the object? My prescription, right? So I dropped my prescription off at the pharmacy. Or if I want to use an object pronoun, I dropped it off at the pharmacy. Okay? So all of these phrasal verbs I'm going to show you, they are all separable. Okay, so make sure in your notes you label them separable. Okay?
Yeah, ready.
Okay. Figure out. So we talked about that earlier, right? Means understand, find a solution, solve. Did you figure out your math homework? Michael figured out the puzzle. So again, figure out is a separable phrasal verb. So what is the object in the first one?
Did you
Homework.
Your math homework. That's the object. So did you figure your math homework out? Or object pronoun, did you figure it out? Homework is non-count. So did you figure it out? Second sentence, what's the object?
Puzzle?
The puzzle. So Michael figured the puzzle out, or Michael figured it out. What's a puzzle?
A puzzle? It's a puzzle. So many pieces. The puzzle.
Yeah, it's like a little activity you have to solve, right? Either put a picture together, but also there's puzzles like word puzzles and, you know. A puzzle's a puzzle? That's a good definition, Hugo.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So pick out, we talked about earlier. Pick out means choose. So Lisa and Daniel picked out a color to paint their house. And I had to pick out a restaurant to eat at for dinner. So the first sentence, what is the object?
The
Paint.
A color, that's the object. So Lisa and Daniel picked a color out to paint their house. Or Lisa and Daniel picked it out, right? Picked it out. And then what about the second sentence? What's the object?
A restaurant.
A restaurant. So I had to pick
A restaurant.
a restaurant out to eat at for dinner, or I had to pick it out.
Can I say I pick it out? No.
Like the past? Mm-hmm. So these are all verbs, right? They're phrasal verbs. So just like any verb, they have different tenses. These are verbs just like all the verbs you already know. So you can use them in the past, the present, the future, right? Present perfect. So I can say I picked it out, or I will pick it out. Same tenses, just like all the other verbs, those regular and irregular verbs that you know. Okay, ready? Okay, put on. That means wear, get dressed, right? So put on your jacket. It's cold outside. Marcy put on her rain boots because it was raining. So the first sentence, what is the object?
Jacket.
Your jacket. So put your jacket on, or put it on.
Put it on.
Put it on. Okay, the second sentence, what is the object?
Rainbow.
Rain boots. So Marcy put her rain boots on, or Marcy put it boots them. Marcy put them on. It's plural, rain boots, right? It is singular. Plural is them. So we use this phrasal verb put on to mean anything that you apply or wear on your body. So you put on lotion, you put on perfume, you put on shoes, you put on a hat, right? You put on a sweater, you put on a necklace. So anything that you physically put on your body, apply or wear on your body, we use put on, okay? Put on a bandage. If you cut yourself, you put on a bandage. Okay, ready for the next one? Okay, turn in, which means submit, which that verb to you might not know. You see it a lot on the internet. If you order something and they'll have like a little button for you to push to submit. So the first one, did you turn in your homework? Manuel turned in his registration form. What does that mean, turn in? What does submit mean? If you turn in your homework, what does that mean?
Deliver that.
It kind of means deliver. It means to return, give back. It means like give back, return. So, for example, I hand out your homework, right? Me, the teacher, I hand out your homework, right? I give it to you, I distribute it to you. When you're finished, you turn your homework in. You give it back to me. You return it to me, right? So the first question, did you turn in your homework? Did you submit? Did you give back your homework? Or Manuel turned in his registration form, so he filled it out, he completed it, and then he gave it back to the person. So in the first sentence, what is the object? Your homework. So did you turn your homework in? Or did you turn it in? And then the second sentence, his registration form. So Manuel turned his registration form in, or Manuel turned it in. Turned it in. Mm-hmm. So I filled out the application yesterday. The students filled out their student ID forms. So the first sentence, what is the object?
Job application.
The job application. So I filled the job application out yesterday. Or I filled it out yesterday. And the second sentence, what's the object? Their student ID form. So the students filled their student ID forms out, or the students filled, because it's plural, the students filled them out. Okay, turn on, which I know all of you know this phrasal verb because we use it every day, all the time. I've never heard somebody not use the phrasal verb turn on. So it means to cause, to operate, or flow, which means electricity, energy, or water. Everybody uses the phrasal verb for this. Okay? Turn on the radio. I want to listen to some music. Turn the lights on. It's too dark in here, right? Everybody uses this phrasal verb. I've never ever hear somebody say, "Oh, can you please operate the electricity, and can you, put the power, turn the power, operate the power on the TV?" Like, nobody says that. Can you give power? Nobody says that.
I do.
Yeah? Can you cause the water to flow?
I just
Yeah. Everybody uses the phrasal verb, right? So the first sentence, turn on the radio. What's the object?
The radio.
The radio. So turn the radio on, or turn it on. And then the second one, we have the object, the lights. So turn them on, or turn on the lights. Okay, look over, which means examine, study, review. I looked over the contract before I signed it. The teacher looked over the student's test. Oh, there should be an apostrophe right here, possessive. I can't write on it because it's going to change the slide. So, the first sentence, what is the object? The contract. So I looked the contract over, or I looked it over before I signed it. And what about the second sentence? What's the object? The student's test. Make sure you put an apostrophe after this S. It's possessive, okay? After the S, because it's plural. The teacher looked the student's tests over, or the teacher looked
over the test.
them over. So yes, tonight when I go home, I'm going to look over your tests. Okay, take off. What does take off mean? Remove. So what do you mean by remove?
The airplane is take off.
That is actually one word. Like this. When it's one word, we're talking about an airplane. Yeah. So we're talking about anything you have on your body. So clothing, jewelry.
Makeup.
Yeah, makeup, if you have makeup on and you need to remove your makeup. So anything that is on your body that you want to remove is take off. So he took off his coat because it was warm inside, right? He removed his coat. So what's the object in this sentence? His coat. So he took his coat off, or he took it off because it was warm inside.
And then for the to take off
Take off for, I'm sorry?
day off.
Oh, take a day off? Yeah, it's the same word, but when you take a day off, that means that you're not,
Taking the day with you.
it means you're not working for the day, for whatever reason. Because you're lazy, maybe you're sick, or maybe you have a doctor's appointment, maybe your mother's here visiting. Okay, wake up. I know you all know this phrasal verb, wake up. Wake up means awake. That's the actual verb, is awake. Nobody says, please awake. Everyone says, please wake up. Wake up. You're falling asleep, right? What time did you wake up this morning? The children woke up the baby because they were playing too loudly. Everybody says wake up, right? Nobody says what time did you awake. That sounds much too formal, right? Everyone says wake up. So, wake up, you don't necessarily need an object with wake up. Wake up you can just say alone. You don't need an object. I can just tell you, wake up. I don't need an object with wake up. So Hugo, if I asked you what time did you wake up this morning, what would you say?
I wake up at
So it's the past, right? So
I woke up at 6:20.
I woke up at 6:20. What time are you going to wake up tomorrow?
Same.
The same?
Every day. Monday through
You wake up at 6:20 every day? Monday through Friday.
Why 6:20? Why?
And on Saturday and Sunday, I woke up at 12.
You woke up at 12 on Saturday and Sunday? Lucky you. I wish I could wake up at 12.
Early bird.
Or sometimes spend the whole night out.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Oh, I'll go back to it. But first, so I want you to practice. I want you to write a sentence containing the following phrasal verbs. So I want you to write a sentence for each phrasal verb. Like, for example, drop off. What does drop off mean?
Delivery.
Deliver. So, I dropped my brother off at work.
Can I say that?
But don't copy my sentence. It's an
No,
example.
miss. Can I say I drop out my clothes at the dry cleaner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I want you to write a sentence for each phrasal verb. Okay?